So, what is it that causes a relationship that has been buzzing? We're very happy in it. All of a sudden, you get to the point where one person is holding back and there's resentment that's crept in, preventing you from having the wholesome, healthy relationship that you wanted all along. That's what we're going to be talking about today on Relationship Real Talk with your hosts, Mary
and Julius and Yolu,
where we talk all things relationship, always keeping it real. Where does resentment come from? How does it creep in? Because I say creep in because it's quite subtle. Nobody wakes up one morning and say, I'm just going to be resentful towards my partner or my spouse or whatever. It kind of just creeps in. What is it that causes resentment to creep in? Before you answer that question, I just remind the audience, if you have not yet subscribed, please do so. If you have not yet shared this video, please do so. Share, like, subscribe, so you can be notified when new episodes drop. How does it creep into relationships, resentment?
Resentment creeps into relationship when we perceive we've been wronged. We perceive that we've been taken advantage of, or we perceive that things are going against us, basically. It could be right, it could be wrong, but it's a true feeling. And when one has that perception, you begin to build a defense.
I mean, you talked about perception, or you perceive you've been wronged, or you perceive things are working against you. But I think it's not always only about perception. It could be because of unresolved issues. So it's not just a perception, but there's things that's happened in the past that have not been resolved, and now you're being resentful. Because the way I look at resentment often creeps in when something is not being dealt with. You don't generally feel resentful about something that is being dealt with. So just to break it down, for example, if I feel like my husband doesn't help around the house. I've raised it several times and he always gives one excuse or the other. We've even fought about it in the past, but he just refuses to help around the house. That could cause resentment. So that's not a perception. It's not that I'm perceiving anything. It's something that's actually happened, but it's not being resolved. So it could be perception, but it could also be unresolved issues that could cause one to be resentful towards the other person. But at the end of the day, whether it's perceived, whether it's real, the problem is now you're in a position where you're not giving yourself fully to the relationship. Now you're in a position where you're not engaged fully. You're holding back because you're upset, or maybe because you want to protect yourself, like you said, but for whatever reason, you're now holding back, and that is unhealthy. That's why we want to talk about it today, right? So how can it be avoided? What can we do to avoid resentment? The first thing I would say is, and I know it can be frustrating, where you feel like you've talked about something over and over and over again, and it just keeps repeating itself. But the truth is, if you're going to avoid resentment, you have to keep dealing with the issue until it is actually resolved. If it's not truly resolved, it will breed resentment. So revisit and try and deal with that issue, whatever it may be.
We have different levels of relationship with people. The closer the relationship, the deeper the impact and the deeper the hurt. And so you have to have a clarity of the type of relationship we're talking about. What is expected of you in that relationship and what you expect from other people. We're focusing on deep relationship with people who are very close to you. It may help to have a discussion, a conversation about what is expected of each other, so that you both know where you stand. And when there are issues, meaning if somebody did something or you did something to them that hurt them, talk about it and tell them why it hurts, or listen to them when they tell you why it hurts and deal with it.
Absolutely. I think sometimes when you haven't even expressed your expectations, you could feel frustrated that it's not being met, because you're, again, going back to assumptions, you're assuming the other person should know. They should just know what to do. They should just know how you feel. They should just know what you expect of them. But like we've said time and time again, don't make assumptions. Express your desire, express your expectations. So unspoken expectations could lead to frustration and could lead to resentment. And while all along the other person never even knew that this was an expectation you had of them. So absolutely, expressing yourself is key. In communicating your expectations is key. But also, even after you've communicated the expectations, if it's still not being met, don't allow yourself to get frustrated, right? I think that's the main point I'm making. So you may have expressed the expectation, you may not have expressed it. Either way, don't allow yourself to be frustrated, because frustration will lead to resentment. So rather than getting frustrated, raise it again and again and again and again. Have that conversation. Let the person know this thing really matters. Now, if you raised it over and over and over again and the person is still not doing it, then you want to find out why not. Is it because they're not understanding what you're trying to communicate? Or is it because they feel it's not important? Again, it goes back to the communication. And like we always say, if it gets to the point where you feel like you need expert help, then bring expert help in, because resentment is a silent killer of relationships. Some of the symptoms, for instance, is you might just decide, I'm not talking anymore. I'm just not going to talk anymore. I'm just going to shut down, do whatever you like. I'm closing my heart off to you. And so now you're in a relationship, but not really in a relationship. You're living together in the house, but you're actually living apart from that person. And for me, I think it's pointless getting to that point. Rather than allowing that to happen, doesn't matter how frustrating it is sometimes when you're expressing yourself and you feel like you're not being heard, find a different way to express it, however you need to express it, to communicate your expectations and your needs. Then do it, rather than allowing yourself to be frustrated and allowing yourself to get resentful. Because if we're not careful, resentment can even cause you to begin to work against the person that you're supposed to be in relationship with. You start to have negative feelings about them and start to harbor grudges against them, and all of those things do not make for a healthy relationship. Really, really important that you don't get to that point where you're holding grudges against the person that you're supposed to be in a relationship. You're supposed to be working together. Now, silently, you're working apart.
In every relationship, in nature, there are different types of relationship. There are equilibrium relationship where you both give and take, and there are relationships that are parasitic where one person just receives and one person gives. That's not a healthy relationship. So I would advise that you have developed yourself to the point where you are a giver. There are some people who have this mentality of always needing, of always in every relationship, with the mindset of what can I get out of this, But if you have a mindset of what can I do for this person, how can I add value to them, having that mindset that I'm not just a taker. Of course, there are times I take, but then there are times I give as well. So, giving and taking, because if you don't learn to give, you have no right to receive. So, it's just dealing with your mindset about life, not just to expect yourself to be at the receiving end, but equally giving as well. Something else I would like to add to that is appreciating the other person. I guess it leads on from the point I was making. So if you are in a relationship with giving and taking, you will appreciate what the other person is giving. But if you're in a relationship where you just solely expect to receive and never to give, you would never appreciate what the other person is giving you. And then you will never, it's not just a case of never appreciating. You will never even say thank you. So learning to appreciate people, knowing that they don't owe you anything. And therefore, whatever thing they do for you, you appreciate them. That way you keep the relationship at an equilibrium level and healthy.
I think that's a really good point, and that's something that can cause resentment as well, where one person feels they've been taken advantage of and they've been giving and giving and giving and they're not getting anything back. Not only are they not getting anything back, they're actually not being appreciated for what they're giving. That is one of the primary reasons for people feeling resentment, because they feel like, why should I continue? You don't even appreciate it anyway. So I think that's really, really important. So obviously we're throwing all these points out, but we want to make it as practical as possible because we know the damage that resentment can have on relationships. So our counsel or suggestion to you would be to look at your relationship. If you sense that there's resentment there, maybe in your own heart, maybe it's you, maybe you feel like your spouse doesn't appreciate you. You feel like you're giving more than you're receiving in the relationship, and it's gotten to the point where you're now feeling resentful. I'm sure you will appreciate that that's not the answer, right? So it is absolutely the right thing for you to be doing, to be giving to your spouse. It's absolutely the right thing for you to be doing, to be supporting your spouse. But if you're feeling neglected and unappreciated, and it's now causing you to want to hold back because you're now resentful, that is not the right place to be. So what do? Like we said before, you need to raise it. You need to speak about it. And you might say, well, I've spoken about it several times, and maybe they've said they will change, but nothing ever changes. Or they argue back, or they say, well, actually, I appreciate you, but I still don't feel appreciated. Then the answer is keep talking about it. Keep talking about it, because to stop is to accept that this is what is going to be forever. And you and I know that that cannot be maintained, and for the relationship to remain healthy. So I would always say, if an issue has not been resolved, then you keep trying to resolve it until it's actually resolved, not swept under the carpet. So do raise it. But I'm going to move on and ask the question then, because I've talked about the fact that, we need to try and resolve it, we need to talk, we need to communicate. What are some of the reasons why people might not want to raise the issues that are causing the resentment?
Well, there could be several reasons. The reason could be self or other than self. Self in the sense that maybe you've been in relationships with before, remember, I'm sure we're not just talking about husband and wife here, but maybe you've had relationships, or maybe you have friends in the past, and maybe when they upset you brought it up and things just got worse, and you said to yourself, well, I'm just going to leave it, because if I bring it up, it's just going to get worse now. Maybe that's not the best thing to do. Maybe you need to, like you've said, which is a valid point, you've got to bring it up. Bring it up, talk about it. But the way you bring it up is important, because if you bring it up from the point of they're wrong and you are right, then that's not a conversation. A conversation has to be fair, it has to be open. Each party must feel like they've got equal power. But if you're inviting me into a conversation and I feel disadvantaged, then I have to fight up before I get to that equal breeding. So you got to give me a chance, basically, and you got to give the other person a chance, because they may have a valid reason and they may not even know why they're doing the things they do. But if you bring up and say, you know what, I actually don't like these about our relationship. I'm not saying the problem is with you, but I like for us to talk about it. That is not a bad start, as opposed to, do you realize how terrible you've been to me? But I want us to talk about it. Why are you so terrible to me? That's a negative and a bad state, a bad place to start.
Absolutely. The way we present things will determine whether the person we're speaking with is open to receive or not. I'll come back to that point in a moment. But something I just wanted to say before I forget is, some people, again, depending on your personality, you may be that kind of person that you just generally avoid conflict. You just, there's some people that just say, I don't want trouble. I don't want trouble. I want my peace of mind. But here's the thing. You want your peace of mind, but you're frustrated. You're feeling resentful, and it's affecting the relationship. So I always say, if someone is willing to have those sweaty palm conversations with you, it shows how much they value the relationship. Sweaty palm conversations are sweaty for a reason, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. But the reason why I'm willing to have that uncomfortable conversation with you is because I care enough about the relationship. If it's someone I don't really care about, there's no point. You do what you do, fine. I'm not going to see you tomorrow. I'm not going to see you the next day. I can very easily move on. But if it's somebody that has a special place in your heart, if it's a relationship that you really care about, then you just don't want to throw in the towel and give up. That's the thing. So I want you to look at it like that. It might be uncomfortable, but it's important. And we want to do the important thing. We want to do the valuable thing for the relationship. So it might be uncomfortable, but do have that conversation. And absolutely, the way you have it matters. We need to think about how we phrase the sentences, phrase what we're saying. And I've learned just through my own study, through my own growth, that saying things like, when you do this, it makes me feel this, is really helpful. So that way you're just saying how you feel. Nobody can begrudge you for how you feel. The person cannot say you're accusing me, even though I know some people tend to get defensive. And it's almost like it doesn't matter how you say, they will read it as you're attacking them. That is true. I know people like that they will read it as attacking them, and they will say, oh, are you saying it's my fault and all of this? But at least you can say, no, I didn't say that. Listen to what I said. I said, when you do this, it makes me feel this. So always coming from that personal place of how whatever is being said, whatever is being done makes you feel, hopefully will remove that sense of you're attacking the person. So I feel dishonored when you do this, right? Or I feel neglected when you don't call me, right? So thinking of a way to phrase it really helps. Is what I would say. But definitely do have that conversation, and never tell yourself it's not worth it. It's not worth it because of the aggro, the fight. It's not worth it because it's just waste of energy because they never listen. Never tell yourself it's not worth it. Your relationship is worth it.
Absolutely. And how you deal with negative situations also helps. So even when you feel wronged, learn how to control yourself during that time in the way you behave, especially when you're in an open space, when there are other people there. So control your emotion. Don't explode in a very embarrassing way, because you're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to embarrass them, and you might end up killing or destroying that relationship. And that's why it's important that you speak about things. Because some people will say, well, I don't want to talk about it. I want to avoid confrontation. But what you're doing is you're piling up. And before you know it, you will just explode. And you yourself may be surprised, where did that come from? So yes, going back to the point, communicate. Secondly, be careful how you deal with negative situations, especially when other people are there. Don't lose your cool. Don't lose your composure. Still remain in control of your emotions and everything until you have the time and space where it's just the two of you that you can deal with it. Because words once released is difficult to bring back.
Well, we hope you're enjoying this conversation. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so. Hit that subscribe button and do share the video, like the video, share it with your friends so they can receive the benefit of it as well. And if you have any comments, if you have any questions, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. We always want to hear from you because we want this to be a two-way dialogue, right? So if you have any comments or questions, please put it in the comments and we'll deal with it. We'll respond to it. Now, we've talked a lot about how you deal with resentment once it arises. But I think it's also important to try and avoid it in the first place. So there's something we say, I don't know how well we adhere to it though, but there's something we say that nothing is too small to be addressed. If it's important to me, it should be important to both of us. And if it's important to my husband, it should be important to both of us. One of the things that causes you were talking about things building up, and that's true. Very often what causes resentments are not massive things. And when you sit the person down and you have a conversation and say, okay, what is it that's really upsetting you? And when they enumerate it and talk about it, you might think that. But the reality is little things, when they pile up, becomes a big thing. So we say, nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud when it's still a little thing. And the way you do that is if both of you really honor each other and really respect each other enough to know that this person is not just being petty. If they're repeatedly saying something, maybe I need to sit up and pay attention, even if to me it might appear small and petty. I think something we fail to realize is that we're all different. I'm different to my husband is different to me. The things that matter, that seem to be big in his eyes, might be small in my eyes, because I'm like, what? That? And the things that are big in my eyes might be small in his eyes, but we're different. So if we're really going to honor each other and appreciate each other and respect each other, then we need to listen to each other. We've said over and over again on Relationship Real Talk that communication is not just about speaking, it's about listening as well. But it's not just listening passively, it's listening actively. So you actually hear what the person is saying and what they're not saying. So you understand where they're coming from. And if you would really practice active listening, then you will know where your partner is coming from, whatever sort of relationship it may be. And you're not going to be tempted to go, oh, there you go again, going on about this little thing. Because when you take that attitude, then of course, chances are they'll go, well, what's the point? I'm not going to raise it. Until one day it blows up, and maybe they even get to the point where they're asking for a divorce, and you're going, why? A little thing becomes a big thing. So if it is important to one, it's important to both, because both of you are in that relationship. Please bear that in mind.
Absolutely. Very valid point. So you've kind of hinted there, the importance of communication, listening, active listening. I would say, leading on from there, accept responsibility. I was going to say take responsibility, but accept responsibility. Because when the other person states their views and their reasons or courses, take responsibility for what they're saying. If they're saying that, you have repeatedly made them feel unappreciated, for example, or unlistened to, or made to be subservient to you, listen deeply. Maybe it's true, because it's not. Because it can't all be wrong. Perception comes from somewhere. You can say, well, that's a you problem, deal with it. But as much as that could be true, find the place in yourself to ask yourself questions like, how am I not helping the situation? And take responsibility for that. And say, well, I apologize for the way I made you feel, and try and work on it,
Awesome. Have you got questions? Have you got comments? Please put it in the comments. We want to hear from you. Now, something that just came to my mind, something that we do fairly regularly, I would say, is we have what you could call check-ins with each other. And it's best done when you're not trying to resolve anything, right? When you're not trying to resolve an issue, you're not trying to resolve a problem, you're just checking in with each other to say, how are you? Are you happy? Right? Okay. Or something we've done on a number of occasions, which we actually sit down and say, okay, each of us write down maybe 2 or 3 things that we would like the other person to do. Each of us write 2 or 3 things that we would like the other person to do more of that will make us happier. So you see, that way you're not coming from a negative place of trying to solve a problem. You're coming from a place of, okay, we're good, we're fine, but we want to be better. And that's really helped us a lot. I think we can say lots of things about ways to deal with and avoid resentment. But if there's any that I would want to just emphasize and hone in on, is this idea of actually listening and taking action on the basis of what your partner is saying to you. If we all always just adopt that posture, then no matter what's causing the resentment, whether it's you not saying thank you, you're not saying please, you always taking, not giving, you always then create room for expression. And as long as there's always room for expression, for each party to feel safe and valued enough to be able to express why they're feeling how they're feeling, knowing the other person is going to listen and take action, then you will always keep moving forward. So we cannot exhaust all the reasons for people to feel resentment, or all the causes of it, or all the possible ways to avoid it. But if we will just find a way of keeping that communication channel open, not just making it possible to communicate, but actually empowering each other to communicate, because we know the other person will listen. They will not get defensive. They will not accuse that you're being petty. Once you're able to create that space, honestly, I really believe that the rest will just be taken care of. Once you're able to create that safe space for both of you to keep communicating. But I suppose the other thing I would say as well, going back to resentment in terms of how you deal with it, if you've seen it cropping up, is just to be willing to forgive, willing to just let it go, and willing to start again and we talk about this in our book 30 Ways to Divorce Proof You're Married. We talk about starting afresh each day. I can't remember the title of the chapter, but that's so important. Learning to start afresh each day, because when you don't, that's when the grudges build up, the unforgiveness stays there, then you're resentful. But if you can do those two things, create space to have open, honest communication, both of you listening, and be prepared to keep letting go, no matter how hard it is, keep letting go, then I think with those two, we can avoid and deal with resentment, no matter the cause and no matter the reason.
Two things I'd like to add to that as well. Is appreciate self and be gentle on self, especially being considerate on self, realizing that you are not perfect. I am work in progress, and therefore I progressively get better. But in the meantime, I make mistakes. So when you've come to that level of realization that I did wrong here, forgive yourself. As much as it is important to forgive the other person, forgive yourself. Give yourself another chance to bounce up and to bounce back. And I don't know if I made this point earlier, practice empathy, because we often behave based on how we are. People say that hurt people. If you notice something negative from the other person, there may be an underlying factor. It could be that it's not even personal. It could be because they just go through a bad patch in life. Maybe something's happened at home. Maybe something happened at work. Maybe something happened en route to work. So practice empathy. You realize, or say to yourself, well, this is not how they usually behave. So you kind of almost let go and just justify it in yourself and say, well, they probably have a reason for what they're doing, especially when it's not a pattern of behavior that you can trace to, that you can identify every time.
Well, a lot has been said. We hope you've benefited from what we've shared. Resentment is a weight. It's a heavy load that you don't want to carry. It will just weigh you down. So try and take on some of the things we talked about. Get that open communication going. Remember, your partner is not your opponent, your teammates. You're in this together. So create that open, safe space to share how you both feel and resolve it. Get professional help if you have to. But whatever you do, offload that weight of resentment. It doesn't look good on you. It doesn't look good on you. Okay, until next time, this has been Mary and
Julius Eniolu,
your Relationship Real Talk hosts, and we look forward to seeing you on the next show where we will talk all things relationship, always keeping it real.
Thank you.